People would like to put their money where. So when you start seeing things like this, another slide, key thing is trends. So look at 2021 across regions. Emerging. Remember what I told you about regions, right? Emerging Europe, Latin America, Middle East. Don't worry. This is how you'll be seen. And now you know how to, I'm showing you how to read them. Check all their growth rates, right? What is the most important thing? The indicators for inflation were not looking good. As far back as 2021, inflation was pretty low until things went as it were. All right, and then same thing here. Now for Nigeria, which is my conclusion, we have other things we measure: interest rates, inflation, forex exchange, oil prices, foreign investment, unemployment. Is fine. I've taught you from the beginning about structure. Now you know when you see inflation. Okay, look at inflation, 27%. You know the implication, right? Remember what I told you? When you see MPR, what's MPR? So MPR is monthly. Monthly policy rate, I beg your pardon. So look at it, 18.7. Now that's the benchmark they set. So that either for borrowing, 12.1%, or for lending. So remember when they set it, banks now add their own, or there's a difference, and then it now hits you, the borrower, whether business or whatever. So that rate is set by them, and they set it to control inflation, right? To control money supply. Remember, money supply controls inflation. So you've seen the connection. Oil price is why it's important, because all our revenue is in oil or government revenue. So government sets a benchmark of 92, at the Q3 it was $92 per barrel. And then when we sell more oil at higher price, we make more money, service our debt, build new roads, and do other things. So these are the macroeconomics that impact Nigeria and are important. Now, there are other things also I wanted to add, like government debt, 87 trillion naira in debt. That's all like, wow, that's high. Well, and this is it, we'll learn that in business analysis. What is the relationship between that amount and our GDP? Don't forget, national debt is a percentage of how much we produce and tax. So they said it's still within the safe zone, but it is actually concerning because our revenue is not high enough to service our debt, all our debt, at least. And so it's a bit of a problem. And I think I'm speaking to lay people here, so I wouldn't go into. But anyway, revenue at that time was about 10.3, 10.9, 10.4 trillion. And we look at inflation and look at economic growth. So you can see where all the thing is going. Now, there was a time that Nigeria's economic growth was 7-8%. 2003. I mean, things were booming. Now you see things more like this, right? Look at this. Real GDP growth rate. Look at the different regions. The world, there's always the world, there's emerging markets. So if you're a business analyst on the call, you always learn to compare a benchmark. Don't just throw figures. You have to compare the benchmark. So the world, look at where everything is. But you have United States. United States is always isolated because it's the most powerful economy. And they raise interest rates. Europe too is also is an important block. But this growth rate is showing that if they are doing well, then they will buy more goods from us in Africa, or more demand, or that's the connection. But inflation also is over there. If they increase their interest rates, you remember what I told you? You know what it does. So that's the list. Look at our own interest rates. Sorry, our own inflation rates, I beg your pardon. You can see Sub-Saharan Africa is the highest on the list, followed by Middle East and Central. But sometimes some people have high inflation, but they also have high productivity. Anyway, but all of these things that I mentioned, I already said, and I explained them. Now, for 2024, this is what we have. This is our budget. 18 trillion in revenue. The budget is 27 trillion. We're targeting a revenue of 18 trillion. And a physical debt, we're going to go and borrow 9.1 trillion to fund that debt, so that together it adds up to 27. Right? Oil prices, we're benchmark at 77. It's currently at about 90 something. I think the last time I checked. And then we're targeting to produce 1.7 million, 0.87 million. Now, Nigeria at its peak usually does 2.2, 2.1. So because of the oil theft and all that, now you're seeing the connection. So that 1.7 times the oil price gives you the value we produce. So if you do the math, you know how much they will generate. But the problem is, some of the oil has already been, the oil fields are drying out, so they're not producing that much. You need to spend money to build more infrastructure so that you can go deeper into the oil that are drying up and pull out more oil and sell. Some of the contracts are ratios. Chevron takes a bigger percent or a different percentage, and Nigeria takes a percentage because you don't have your own. It's complicated. And now you're seeing how, and then when you pack it out, someone else steals it. That's how your revenue begins to drop. All right. Now, I've showed you guys this before. You need to pay attention to the news now. And I'm recommended, and they're not paying me for this, right? Stairs, Arise. These are your two best. I like them a lot. The Arise has a business segment. If you go on YouTube, you can follow and read the drivers. It will open your mind. So you see connection. Dangote Refinery now is a macroeconomic conversation at this point. That's why everyone's excited, because it will have to do with our oil, our cost of gasoline, hopefully drive it down, our demand for Forex. Then there are the other ones that you track for global, right? CNN, BBC. But I have what I call luxury news: Time, Bloomberg, Newsweek, Economist. Those ones that are much deeper. Maybe somebody analyzing whether Russia-Ukraine war will ever end. Those and why to end. They go and bring the most sophisticated whatever on that, and he gives analysis. He spent 20 years researching Ukraine or Russia or studying Putin, and they paid him to come and talk. He will tell you whether Putin's mood swings and when to end and to stop the war. That's where you get that kind of sophisticated news on those parts, especially The Economist. But that is how you build your capability. And now all these things I'm saying, here is my conclusion. A lot of us are hoping and aspiring to become important people someday. But if you don't understand macroeconomics, you're sitting down in a company you're sitting down, you say you're the CEO of a bank. If you don't understand macroeconomics, you're going to make wrong decisions. Of course, you may follow the bandwagon, but you may not understand how to make strategic decisions because you don't understand the fundamentals. So there are indicators that people would see. Oh, Heather, farmers are now migrating to Osun State from Zaria. And you're like, what's the implication? If you plot one or two together, you can say, this is the implication. Let's open more branches here. Let's do this. These are the things that happen when you understand. All right. So my conclusion and advice: follow the news and track geopolitical issues. Local news, international news. Second, do further research and use AI to ask 7-year-old questions. What do I mean by that? Hey, AI, please, why does inflation, tell me how rising blah, 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 inflation would affect this. It will answer you. Okay, explain it to a 7-year-old, and so on and so forth. And then lastly, you will get it with time. My job was to raise your interest and to help you appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope I did justice to this. I know I was short my runway by some time, but we don't do this every time. And I hope you learned something. I would actually, I request that, maybe the floor is open so I take 1 or 2 questions or comments, or if it's read to me. But thank you all for listening. I wish you well in 2024. Pay attention to the news and then use that information. Remember, you can teach yourself. You can understand it. This stuff was made by human beings like you and I. Thank you and cheers.